The situation in Afghanistan has deteriorated, and as I said in the House of Commons a few weeks ago, we could see this coming for some time, and we'd have to make preparations to pull out, and that's what's going on now. That moment has now come. So in the course of the next few days, we will see the vast bulk of UK embassy staff officials come back, and we'll step up our efforts to bring back those Afghans who have helped us, helped the UK, helped international forces throughout the last 20 years. And in addition to the 2,000 who have already come out, and to help them, we're sending out another team of Home Office officials to help them with their applications and get them out. And obviously we are appealing to those who have association with the UK who want to come out now to come forward and identify themselves. I think what I would say at this stage is it is very difficult, obviously, but I think the UK can be extremely proud of what has been done in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. Don't forget that the combat mission ended in 2014. There isn't a military solution, but thanks to the efforts of the UK armed services, all the sacrifices they made, we have seen no Al-Qaeda attacks against the West for a very long time. And there are millions of girls and young women who've been educated in Afghanistan thanks to the efforts of the UK and British armed services. And I think people can be very proud of that.
But things are going in the opposite direction now. How worried are you that Afghanistan is going to become a breeding ground for terrorists? And isn't there an argument to go in the opposite direction and to perhaps have a permanent troop presence once again?
I think we've got to be realistic about the abilities of the UK or any power to impose a military solution, a combat solution in Afghanistan. What we certainly can do is work with all our partners in the region and around the world who share an interest with us in preventing Afghanistan from once again becoming a breeding ground for terror. And I think anybody in government in Kabul is going to recognise that the West, the UK, have a permanent interest in making sure that does not happen. And so we are going to use our diplomatic, our political, our overseas development aid budget leverage to make sure that we exert what pressure we can. And we will continue to do that. But I think the idea of a military or a combat solution is not the one that we should be pursuing right now.
It's a grim reality as we approach the 20th anniversary of 9/11. What do you say to military families who lost their loved ones in Afghanistan, some of whom are now saying they feel that their loved ones died in vain?
First of all, I share the sorrow of all the families who've lost loved ones over the last 20 years, the 457 British troops who were serving men and women who were killed in that conflict, many of them in Helmand. I thank them for the immensity of their sacrifice, thank their families for what they've gone through. And I know how they must feel at the moment, but I must say that I don't believe it was in vain, because I do think when you look back at what has happened over the last 20 years, there was a massive effort to deal with a particular problem that everybody will remember after 9/11, and that was successful. And to a very large extent, the threat from Al-Qaeda on the streets of our capital, around the UK, around the whole of the West, was greatly reduced. And there was the further advantage that millions, I think 3 million girls, young women were educated who would not otherwise have been educated. And so what I would say to those families now is, I understand what you feel, but I believe that it was right, it was worth it. And what we must do now is not turn our backs on Afghanistan, but continue as a member of the Security Council, a country deeply involved in the strategic future of the area, to work with our partners and make sure that the government of Kabul does not allow that country again to be a breeding ground for terror.
Ben Wallace has suggested it was a mistake for the US to withdraw troops. He said the Doha deal was a rotten deal. Do you agree with your Defence Secretary? And if so, why weren't we pushing against it at the time?
Well, the American government obviously has decided to take a particular course of action, and that is one that has the inevitable logical consequence that I set out in the House of Commons several weeks ago. And the situation has now evolved in exactly the direction that we said it would. We have to deal with those consequences.